Pleased to be joined now by CBS Sports Network's Adam Schein, who is a busy man himself this time of year. You can catch Adam on that other pregame show on CBS Sports Network this Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern before the Bills take on the Chiefs at 6:30 p.m. on CBS and Paramount Plus. He's also the host of Shine on Sports on Sirius XM and the host of the Rise and Shine podcast. It's amazing he's even got 10 minutes for us, but he was kind enough to carve out part of his day as he is a busy man. But first and foremost, Adam, knowing you talk more to what I would classify as national NFL fans. I mean, we're only talking to Bills fans here. We suffer from Bills myopia. So that's why I want to ask you, because we're getting this sense going into this Bills-Chiefs AFC title game that around the country there is some Chiefs fatigue. And I'm wondering if you've felt some of that from the listeners that you have on your shows.
Oh, yeah, without question, Chris. And listen, for you guys, I always want to be here, always make time, especially this week before this game coming up on CBS. And honestly, there is major Chiefs fatigue, and there's so many reasons for it. And, I think, and I say this as a sports fan, right? And I'm a Yankees fan. And I know that people hate winners. That's just part of the deal, right? I've always been a sucker for history, whether it's Michael Jordan or the late 90s Yankees or, whether we're talking about the Brady Belichick Patriots or the Warriors. And some teams in sports are more insufferable than others. Kevin Durant's Warriors would be a quick example of that, and they were clearly the best. But I think that's what's really gotten on everyone's nerves nationally. You might have not liked the decision for Durant to go to Golden State, but there was no denying they were the best team. You watch Kansas City play week in and week out this season, and they've won all these games. You got to give credit where credit is due. As Bill Parcells once said, you are what your record says it is. But I don't think they're the best. I don't think they're unbeatable. I mean, I didn't realize that Saturday was Bring Your Ref to Work Day in Kansas City, Missouri. And that was the case against Houston. I mean, you have to play a perfect game and deal with the officials, as D'Amico Ryan said. Week 2, it was the refs against Cincy and the refs against Atlanta. And, Todd Bowles doesn't go for 2. And Antonio Pierce was so spooked on Black Friday, he admitted after the game he couldn't even look. When has a head coach said he couldn't even look what was on the field? I mean, that was crazy. Not to mention Will Lutz with the field goal that's blocked and the Chargers with the doink. I mean, there's been a lot of luck involved and stuff, and no one disrespects Mahomes. And I love Mahomes, and I love Andy Reid, and Chris Jones and Travis Kelce are going to the Hall of Fame, and Spagnuolo's defense is amazing, but there's just been something oddly fluky about this team this season. And I think people, especially watching the game against Houston, all right, Houston's offensive line didn't play well. The kicker missed kicks. But at 3-3, when Anderson gets called for roughing the passer, and we're talking about punting unit on the field or drive stays alive on third down going into fourth versus first versus fourth, it changes everything. So I think for all those encompassing reasons, everybody in America and Canada rooting for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday.
I'll say this, and you're right. I mean, you can't sit here and with a straight face and say the Chiefs don't deserve everything they've got. I mean, they earn it. They're great. Mahomes is an all-timer. Andy Reid, all-timer. Kelce, the same thing. Chris Jones. When you go into Kansas City, and the Bills have done this, they're 10-0 at home as well. You go into Kansas City, and they seem to, and one of the reasons they have won so many games and they're all-timers is because they seem to have a gear nobody else has. The Bills have been victims of it, and the Bills have changed gears a couple of times too, but this Chiefs team seems to, particularly in the regular season, they play with their food to win the game. I mean, you're not going to be, you can have a lead with with a minute to go, we're still going to win the game. Because they have this gear nobody else does. Is there something to that? Is it luck, like you said, and there is, or do they have something in their DNA that makes them different?
Well, I do think that's where you talk about Andy Reid, and the DNA is, I mean, Steve, it's remarkable. I mean, I think Andy Reid, and you framed it this way, he's an all-timer. Like, I look at Philadelphia and Kansas City and what he accomplished. I think he's a Mount Rushmore head coach. I think Patrick Mahomes is already the second best quarterback in the history of the league. And look, I was John Elway obsessed, loved Joe Montana. There were moments in real time where Peyton Manning was as good or better than Tom Brady. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a legend. I mean, let's be fair and be honest. And Mahomes has moved past all those guys. And then you get into Kelsey, then you get into Jones, the crowd. I mean, playing an Arrowhead is difficult. That's a real home field advantage. But, it's a different gear, it's a different level. But here's the thing when it comes to this matchup, which I find fascinating. Josh Allen knows he can beat Patrick Mahomes. 4-4. That's a big deal. And I know 0-3 in the playoffs, it's a thing, it's real, it's talked about. Jackson, as in Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, they're all playing in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era, right? And that's an all-time combo. Josh Allen's performance in the 2021 divisional round was phenomenal. Like, you don't have to have an educated guess. Can Josh get it done, play brilliantly, match Mahomes in the postseason in Arrowhead? He's already done it. He was as good, if not better than Patrick on the road in Kansas City. I know Josh Allen's going to come to play. Well, that's a few years ago. All you have to do is look at this year. Look at what Allen did against Kansas City. Look at what the Bills did in two of the 4 biggest games of the NFL season, what they did against Kansas City and what they did against Detroit. And I thought what the Bills did against Detroit, I mean, they just beat them. And forget the final score and ebb and flow of the game laid. They ended that game early, 14-0, 21-7, the way Josh played. And the way the defense has played, and Sean McDermott deserves a lot of credit for this, in the postseason, it's a huge deal. I mean, when Bo Nix threw that touchdown pass, it was kind of one of those moments like, oh, okay, maybe this is going to be a more competitive game than I thought. The defense put the clamps on them. That was ridiculously impressive. What Lamar Jackson did in the second half, and he's obviously a tremendous player. All the yards the Ravens had, compare and contrast to Buffalo, that was significant, obviously. But it was those 3 turnovers that the Bills defense forced. And I'll tell you the other thing that really strikes me about why I think it's the Buffalo Bills' time to shine. I mean, you guys know this. When do the Bills ever have luck, right? They just don't ever have luck. Anything that could go wrong goes wrong in the postseason. The fact that Andrews dropped that pass, man, sometimes en route to a championship. I'll go back to my Yankees, 96. Did Jeffrey Mayer interfere with Tony Tarasco in the Jeter home run? You damn right he did. Of course he did. So Mark Andrews dropped that pass. Listen, I think that you start looking at the universe, football, X's and O's. Man, I know it's difficult to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, but I just really trust Josh Allen. And the chip is real. We had Josh Allen on our SiriusXM radio show the day after that dopey, irresponsible poll came out, most overrated quarterback. Yeah, do I think that matters? Absolutely. Do I think it matters when people, myself included, I love the Bills, picked the Jets to win the division? Some fools, not me, picked Miami ahead of them. I mean, you heard the answer that Josh gave Tracy Wolfson on CBS about the defense. I think the chemistry is great. I think the vibes are great. I just love they wrapped up the division on December the 1st. That's a huge deal. Sean McDermott coached an unbelievable game. And when you take a look at what transpired late, especially kicking that field goal after Josh was stopped on the 3rd and 1, I just think there are so many signs and signals that it's time for the Buffalo Bills.
Adam, we appreciate your time, and thanks for kind of giving us a non-myopic perspective of this game because we are so immersed in it. I'm kind of wondering if we're still seeing straight at this point in time, and we're only at Thursday. I don't know if we're going to make it to Sunday at this point.
I got to tell you, I found myself literally, I walk the streets. I'm in my spare time. I'm on the Peloton. All I'm doing is thinking about this game. That's it. Like, there are certain matchups, there are certain sporting events, Allen climbing Mount Mahomes, getting to the Super Bowl, delivering the Super Bowl for Bills Mafia. Brandon Beane had such great conviction in what he was doing in the offseason. Joe Brady doing such a great job calling the plays. The role players who have stepped up for this team. I mean, this Bills team, look, every team is different, right, in sports. So, it's always going to be your team. This Bills team is so tough and so likable. I can't stop thinking about this game, this matchup, and I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win, and I think they're going to the Super Bowl.
Awesome. Thanks, Adams. Great talking to you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games.
You too. Go Bills.